Hey Dave. So here is a quick little training session here just to anchor in. This is going to be in like a process mastery session. And so this is a little bit from the daily focus. And so I'll give you a little bit of insight here. And you might be doing some of this already or all of it. But I will, share this with you nonetheless. So in daily focus, all right, two things that is present. So when we look at two things, the two things that are present that stand out outside of golf, and we just run process into this as well, is one, the hockey job September, and two would be hydration. And so, Right, and so you probably have a plan for this already, but I will break it down in how we drop it into like a process mastery so we start seeing everything in the same manner. And again, you're probably doing this, but this just ties in some language already. So again, when we look at this is in the process mastery container, which is step 1 is modeling. Step 2 would be time blocking. Step 3 is maximize by measure and monitor. And 4 is innovation. And so as we look at and we break some of these things down, we'll take hydration, for example. You had mentioned, okay, you have a sports nutritionist or a program already. So your sports nutrition equals your model. Right, so now you know the modeling is telling you what to do. You are 3 is going to be you are monitoring and measuring, and what I'm hearing is you're monitoring and measuring, and I'm hearing, it's how you're feeling at hockey, right? And I'm not sure if there's any other places that you feel you need hydration, but sounds like at hockey is a place, right? So you're monitoring, measuring there, right? And part of your innovation is going to be, you're saying it's pre, so not just right before, and you have a plan anytime before, leading up. So it might be, pre-game. It might be days before, or it might be days before, or it might be, every day, certain hydration. But that would be the innovation of what you're looking for hydration. So as we break down just kind of what you're saying, just in those short little pieces, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the core parts that we're always seeing, and the one part we haven't talked about, and again, you do it already, but this helps in actualizing. So the time blocking is the actualization of everything. Right, so the actualization comes inside the time blocking. And because now all the innovation and the measuring and how you model certain things will come inside the time blocking. So, excuse me, when you start to think of, okay, what is, and we'll do this is the exact same process that we run in golf, but you have your nutritionist or your nutrition plan that tells you how to measure the hydration, how do you know all of this stuff. And so you're going to be looking at how do you time block to ensure that when you monitor and measure, it is going to be very, very specific to, right, the water intake and all of that stuff, based on the modeling and plan. So you might have a ratio of some sort of based on activity, based on like what you eat, all of the things, based on what kind of activities you're doing, what type of hockey you're doing, what you did the day before. So you might have all of that in the modeling. And then you're measuring all that stuff. So when it comes into time blocking, right, the actualization comes in calendar. Right, so we always will plug things in a calendar to create some consistency and to make it real. And maybe again, you might be blocking this off already. But so time blocking would be like now when we say water or hydration or whatever that is, we might know that if it's a whether it's water or sports drink, we're looking at if it's right, we're putting in time to measure like time plus intake. So again, I'm not sure the plan, but when we say, okay, so if I have just using hockey for example, and so if we use hockey as the example, and so if we have hockey as excuse me, let's just say today is Thursday. So let's just say a calendar. We're gonna have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we'll just say hockey. Sounds like you do hockey early, and hockey is at 9 a.m. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but let's give it 9 a.m. So when we look at hydration, we want to be able to see it on the calendar because this is where we get all the measuring in the optics to see. And again, you might be doing this already, but we implement, and if you are, it's like amazing because we implement the same thing when we start to measure. And again, it might not be as robust in depth with your golf, but at some point it could be, right? So when we look at water intake, you might say, again, taking in your whole formula of what you're looking at, right? It might say inside your 9 a.m. window, right? You are going to how many ounces inside that window that you have to be drinking, and that would be based on activity. But then you might also do the pre. So it might be like at 8 a.m. equals X. Well, we'll just say, yep, is, again, this is it's definitely a lot more dynamic than just drink this much ounces at this time, but this is just a reference to say like at 8 a.m. or inside this window between 8 and 8:30 pre-game, this needs to happen. So you're getting to refine all of this stuff. And so as you look also in, okay, the day before, how do you stay hydrated in the day before? Or maybe how do you stay hydrated so when Wednesday comes, you're fully hydrated? And so you might have periods in the day of like water, like time, and again, it's probably more complex than just like amount of ounces. It depends on what you're eating, but it's going to be, or maybe what you're doing, but you'll know your schedule, you'll know kind of the activities beforehand, right? And if it's pretty similar activities throughout the day, then you can have a standard thing. But as we set the day in advance, right, if we're doing more strenuous things, if we're working out more, if we're doing something, right, you're going to have the time and the ounces that you're doing, so we can start to see time and ounce, and it would also be like, right, is it water versus sports drink, right? And give yourself a reminder, because things like this could be easily not forgotten, but just missed, and we missed the block of time. And it just might be quick little reminders in the phone that just kind of beep, and then make sure you're getting the right amount of intake, but then it's going to be the same here. Right, so now you can start to look at like how much water you're drinking throughout the day, but not just how much, because then you'll have activities. call it these activities that fall in between. So now when you look at, we're going to see all of these purple things here, and the purple would be purple is going to be like when you're drinking your water and you're hydrating, right? And then you'll have, right, your activities in between, and you start to see, when you can see things like this, then you start to see patterns, right, in your week, in your days, to associate to your hydration. So it's not like reactive on the spot, I need more hydration. And what do we do? So you can start to look at like the 7-day outlook. And so when you run your weekly report at the end of the week, you can see, how was my hydration for the week? How did I feel? What was present for me? Right, so on your Sunday, when you do your, weekly report, Coach's Corner, right, you can see, how was my hydration, and you give it a scale like 1 out of 10, right? And when you can see this, especially if the same thing occurs, right, you want it to optimize as quickly as possible so you can just find the patterns and go, right? And so if, like, let's say this week was a 5, like your movement to optimize would be, right, what was great about what you just did, and what needs to change. So what was great, what needs to change, right? So the change is the optimization, and the change, again, is not when you see it like this, now all of a sudden you see like the big picture, because then you get to see just more than the intake. You get to see how it's inside the activities. Sometimes you'll be like doing more stuff, and you can see, during these activities, actually the intake is going to be more. During these ones, maybe it's, I don't know if you can overhydrate, so that is not my area, and it would be more, something that you would probably know more than me for you. So I don't know if you can overhydrate. I know definitely you can be dehydrated, and you get to see everything out there, and you can go as deep as you want to understand like what type of food you're eating, like in between, right, to check that out. But like it's as far as you would like to take it, and how important it is on the hydration aspect for you, right? So if hydration is high on the list, right, then you want to find and optimize as much as possible, which means you would need a lot, not like, a lot more detail in the optics. And if it's not that much, then you have less optics, right? This is not to tell you that, oh, go ahead and do it like this. This is to say, if hydration is extremely important, like really high, then the optics needs to be clear. If it is just lower on the scale, then the optics is less clear, because it takes time to create the optics, right? And we associate this to your golf game, because there are things that we're working on that are that are core functions, that the optics need to be extremely more clear in some areas of the core things that we're doing, and the optics can be a little less clear in other areas, right? So, as we start to look at like driving, for example, and like hitting draws, right, the optics of, the swing direction and the club face. So like the swing path being 3 to 5 degrees in the positive, right, when we hit like on the TrackMan, like that's a very, very clear optic, right? Something that's less optic or less clear would be like, we want anything moving from the inside in a rightward direction, right? Tilt the circle to the right, right? Can we do that? Great, right? A little less clear optic on that, all right, would be, can we just get the ball to start to the right, right? So as we dive in, right, it's getting more narrow on the optics and the clarity, right? So it's the same thing. So as we're getting super clear in like ball flight and the shape, as the core focus is the driver, right, to get the distance that you want, right, a very, very clear optic is going to be club head speed for the driver, right? So we're very clear and precise on that. And as we get into that, it'll be like how you hit in the club face, like contact, center contact, toe, heel, all of that stuff, thin or high in the face. that will be more clear versus, right, when we're on the green or when we're on the course, we might have some optics, but it's going to be a little bit more broad around, how far from the green. Is it like inside 25 or inside 50, right? What's your score from, 50 yards or less? What's your score from 100 yards or less? Like little broader optics, right? It's going to be like, hey, how many drives did you hit off the tee? A little more clear. So there's a lot more details that we see in the driving optics, right? How far is it going, right? Then it's the swing path, right? Is it the ball shape? Is the start direction? We're starting to add more optics on and compound that in there, right? How far is it going? How far away from the flag, right? What's the shape, right? And like, what's the swing speed? And all of these things starts to add up, right? So when we look at what the driver's building, it's like this map that we see here just in a calendar. And so we're going to start to compound so we get super clear, like in the driving, right? And, there'll be some days where it's like putting is an issue, chipping is an issue, right? Comes out there and certain things, and we'll have optics there, but it will not be as defined at this point as the core driving function, right? So, my offer to you is like when we look at this, is to, see whatever it is that you need to see to move things forward and to create the quickest change towards the outcome that you're looking for, right? And so, I would offer you that. And again, this is just process mastery here as to how everything comes together. All right, Dave, this is amazing and exciting for me to kind of pull this up for you, and look forward to our conversation next.